let's review some signs of sensory irregularity so we can summarize so we have a format for going forward, especially for the people who are here. So there are sensory, we have how many sensory systems, you'll remember? How many sensory?
7.
7, yes, it's 7. 7 getting stretched. So we have 7 sensory systems. We're going to discuss touch, sound, and movement the most right now. And then children can respond in various ways. They can either over-respond to the sensation that's coming in, or they can under-respond. Children who over-respond don't filter anything out. They feel everything a million times more than everybody else. Children who under-respond are your like lethargic kids who have a hard time getting up and moving, or they're not hearing what's going on and they're in la-la land someplace in the classroom. When you ask them to do things at home, they're someplace, but they're not in tune with you. And the over-responsive kids sometimes are the kids who are either running away from the plethora of sensation that's bombarding their system, or in response to that sensation, they're just getting more and more and more and more and more and more, and they're totally out of control. So those are your 2 kinds of kids. So let's take some examples so that we know who we're talking about. So let's take the sense of in the tactile system, the child who's over-responsive to touch. So the holidays are coming up, and we just had some, so we're in the throes of the holiday season, which is very challenging for a lot of children. The sensory over-responsive kid may really balk at those crinoline dresses. Ouch, that crunch. They may really be resistant to the tights. Ooh, it's really nasty. Their boys may really, really not like those button-down shirts and those ties that they have to wear to church. They really, when the holiday party comes, they may really not want to be there because it's just overwhelming and they can't filter out any of this nastiness, like Great Aunt Bertha who wants to hug and kiss me and smells like an old lady and wears icky lipstick. Like, you may have an opinion about that Great Aunt Bertha that says, oh my gosh, she's a funky old lady. But the child can be really overwhelmed to the point that they want to stay away. And when Great Aunt Bertha wants to hug and kiss them, that is not okay. And they go and they run. And they could be under the table. Or they could be out the door. And kids who are in circle time who have this response, sometimes they're out the door also. And that's a lot more dangerous. Okay, a kid who's under-responsive to all this touch may be the child who's always like, even though there's lots of people over and lots of kids to play with, they may be playing with mommy's hair. They may really be self-selecting themselves to be out. They may be the kid who's sitting with their cousins to watch the football game and they're on their cousins. They're not feeling the difference between their space and their cousin's space. Or they may be the kid who's going and hugging everybody to pieces because they don't get enough sensation and normally, so they go out and seek it in ways that feel good to them but are socially inappropriate. Let's take another example in sound. Kids who are over-responsive to sound are the kids who don't want to go in the birthday party room and they don't want to go into the room with the party is, and they're walking around like this. They want to block it out. It's confusing, it's overwhelming, it's too much. They want to escape. Kids who are under-responsive may seem lost in this very busy crowd. Or they may be the kids who are always humming all the time, even when humming is inappropriate. They may be the kids who, when everybody's watching the football game, turn it up really, really, really loud. And they may be the kids who talk like this in a very monotone voice, and they really have no variety in their voice at all. They're not matching their voice to the demands of the environment. It's always the same like this. It's usually an outdoor voice, actually. And there's very little nuance in their voice. Okay? Kids who are over-responsive to movement. Those are the kids who are really derailed by a lot of movement. And if the cousin comes over and the cousin has really fantastic games for everybody to play and everybody's running around, they may either spin out of control and do nothing about what's on task for that game, or they may be the kid who just opts out and goes to the side and reads the book because they're really overwhelmed by all of this moving. They do not want to go on the carousel. If they go to an amusement park, they do not want to go on the merry-go-round. Those are not things that they can tolerate because that vestibular input from those things is so overwhelming to them. The under-responsive kid, on the other hand, may either completely opt out of doing these physical things that the other kids are doing outside of the playground if it happens to be a nice day, or they may be craving it so much that they can't stop doing it because it's so weird that they allow themselves to get it. And once they get going, there's no stop. So those are some of the things that can happen with the kids who can't modulate the sensation that's coming in. So the sensation is coming in, and they either can't filter out what's relevant and attend to it, the sensory unresponsive kid, or all the sensation that's coming in, they don't filter anything out. They focus on absolutely everything that's coming in, and everything demands response. They tend to be very impulsive, because everything demands response, everything speaks to them. So that's one set. Those are the kids who are not regulating themselves. The responses do not meet the demands of the environment, they're just off kilter. Then you have the children whose praxis isn't good. Does anyone remember what praxis is? Or what it relies on? It is not test. Anyone have a child with a praxis issue that they know about? Okay, so praxis is the ability to see something you want to do in the physical environment and do it. And it relies on really good body awareness. In order for you to go on this new toy, to climb in and around and out of it, I have to be able to, I know, on a very gut level, that I can get into that structure and get out of it. If I'm not secure that I can get in that climbing structure and out of it, I am just not going to do it because I can't. I'll get stuck. It's going to be too high. The children who don't have good praxis can't figure out how to do things physically. Those kind of kids, in a time when there's lots of new activities and novelty to do at parties, they know they can't figure out what to do. So they either do something that's completely off base, like run around in circles, which is a very frequent thing, or do the one thing they know how to do, which may be scootering or bicycle riding with training wheels, or they say that the games that the other kids are playing are stupid. And they're stupid because they can't do them. Okay, and that's a real common defense mechanism, stupid. So those are some of the signs that we look at for sensory processing disorders. And those really are more of the obvious ones.